So I've just been watching Facebook, and I'm not sure where this came from, but something occurred to me. And that something that occurred to me was the way in which I'm always hunting for some sort of end game, for some sort of end to I'm doing something and I'm wanting, there's always a part of my mind that's going off and saying, well, I want to do that because that's more pleasurable, and then I get to rest, and then I get to sit down, and then I get to do what I want to do. But of course, that's just an illusion, because everything I'm doing is because I want to do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen to do it. It's just that some things are classed as harder than others, right? So I'm aware that there is some sort of, I want a reward at the end of something, like a prize for doing something right, or for doing something, not doing something right necessarily, but for doing something, and then for that achievement value, it's like a reward. Like, for example, when for example, you're doing something like spelling at school, and then if you do that activity right, then you'll get awarded a certain amount of stars. So the thing that you may be aiming for is the top amount of gold stars. I don't know, maybe the top star, which is a gold star, and then I think it was maybe yellow, green, and red or something, and then there was a gold star at the top. So you want the gold star, right? So you can feel good and you've done a good job. And I kind of feeling that's the way I am with regard to the things that I do in my life. And it's weird because I feel like personally that a lot of my life I've looked upon things as life's unpleasant and you have to do lots of stuff that you don't want to do. But if you do those things and you do them well, then there's a reward at the end of it. Like, for example, I go to work every day. I do my job. The reward at the end of my job is, you could say it's money, but also it's recognition from those around me that I've done a good job, right? And then in my personal environment, I'm doing things that I don't want to do, or things that are maybe things I don't want to do, but I'm doing things that are taxing to me or are painful, or they require some form of action that is going to cause some form of discomfort. And so that part of myself doesn't want the discomfort, right? Doesn't want it. I don't want discomfort. I want everything to be easy so that I don't have to buy into that discomfort. I don't want to experience that discomfort under any cost. And the reason for this, for me, is that, and nobody likes having discomfort in their life. Nobody likes things being difficult necessarily, right? But for me, it's the way in which I look at that difficulty, because we're always going to get things that challenge us. But I feel, definitely for myself personally, that I've got to a stage where I treated anything that was challenging, if it was challenging, I didn't want to go anywhere near it. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to retreat. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to go do something like maybe eat something that I really like. All of these things that, because I was primarily geared for life is suffering. Everything is suffering. Everything other than this thing that I want to do. And everything other than this pleasure that I wanted to have from maybe a simple thing like eating some food that I really like, or, everything was suffering. And I spent most of my life trying to force that outside. I don't want suffering. So I'm like this resistant mass. But suffering exists and it's out there. And I talk about suffering, but hard things that, are going to take a degree of effort, they're out there. There's nothing wrong with those things, but it's quite often the way that we think about these things, right? And so for myself, that suffering is something that I tried to push away, because I felt like I'd spent a lot of time in that. I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't do anything about it. I felt like I just had to endure it all the time. So I spent a lot of my time feeling really not very good, often feeling suicidal at times, and believing that there was nothing I could do about it. I had this mentality going on. So with regard to the cycle that I'm going through, it's like, it does feel like there's it's sort of become linear. So there's like a linear pathway that has become, my life is suffering, I have to suffer, and I don't get very much pleasure out of it. And the things that I do get pleasure out of, I'm going to try and make the most out of those. And often, sometimes I will try and prolong those and ignore something that I have to do because that's suffering. And I don't want to suffer, and I want to push that away from me. So kind of interesting, actually, for me to sort of analyse it in that way and look at it. Maybe I've got a real chance to really feel what that is. Anyway, that's it, guys, and speak to you very soon.